Let's see. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, got Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
I think my internet is unstable. I'm gonna camera and see if that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Are we good to go? I'm gonna give this a try.
Yes.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. If you can turn your cameras on, that'd be great. I'll keep mine off just to keep my internet from completely abandoning me. But if I do go away, please someone take over. Okay, so I'm gonna call the Public Works Committee to order. And we continue to meet via Zoom, as you can see, but we have several ways in which you can continue to participate. If you are meeting us, or if you're joining us via Zoom, please use your raise and lower hand feature, and I will call on you to provide comments. If you are participating by phone, you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute and mute yourself. You can always leave a voicemail with your comments to City Council. The number is 406-552-6012. And you can always email City Council at council@ci.missoula.mt.us. These meetings are recorded and you can access them via YouTube and MCAT. Okay, I am gonna go to if we can do roll call, Ashley, that'd be great, please.
Okay. Anderson? Becerra?
Present.
Contos?
Here.
Harp?
Here.
Hess?
Present.
Jones? Merritt?
Present.
Ramos?
Present.
Cheryl? Vasika? Von Lossberg?
Here.
West?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ashley. We have no public present to provide public comment. And so with that, we'll go to our first item on the agenda, and that is an appointment to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board. Allie Kane is Ward 1, the motion. Or anyone. Thank you, Julie.
Did we have someone who was going to speak to her nomination? Or, but, I mean, I'm happy to go
I
ahead and
don't
make the recommendation.
know.
I'm happy to go ahead and
I
make the
don't
recommended.
know.
motion. Why not?
Is joining. Katie, do you know if anyone is presenting this, or should we just move it along?
I'm sorry, which one are you guys on?
We are on the first one, the appointment to the Bike Ped Board.
I would assume the mayor.
Okay.
I
I'm
don't
happy-
see him.
Merita, I'm happy to make the recommended motion to appoint Ally Kane to the Bike Ped Board.
Great. And yeah, okay. I think that Ally Kane comes with a lot of experience and expertise in climate change and sustainability. And I think that would be a really great addition to that board. So happy to support that motion. If we could get roll call vote, please.
Becerra, Becerra,
Yes.
okay. Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
That is 8 yeses and 0 nos.
Great, thank you. So that item passes and it'll be on our consent agenda. I would like to thank Ally Kane for stepping up and wanting to be, give her time to this board. Item number 2 is the purchase of 1 compact truck utility loader for parks, and Scott's here to present. Go ahead, Scott.
Good afternoon, Scott Caldwell, Fleet Manager for the City of Missoula. So there was a little snafu on the referral document. It says a compact truck, but it's actually a compact track utility loader for parks. Had a little problem with e-scribe, and so my apologies for that, but it is a compact track utility loader for Parks Department. But
You mean it's not a tiny little truck, right?
no, it's not a truck. It's one of those little track units. You see all the landscapers and stuff running around. They have a little bucket on the front of them, and they have tracks on them for carrying dirt, that kind of stuff. So that's what this
Great.
is. So I move that this council and this committee approve the purchase of a Vermeer S925TX compact utility loader with the attachments from Vermeer, Rocky Mountain, and Billings, Montana, for the purchase price of $35,348.32. Don't forget the 32 cents. This track unit is going to give the Parks Department the ability to work on trails and some of their trails and those types of things without having to disturb any of the native vegetation along the edge of the trails. Also gives them the ability to work on parts of the trails that they haven't been able to work on before, just because the ability to get machinery and that kind of stuff in there. So this is a great addition for the Parks Department. This is an addition. This is not a replacement unit. This is the first of its kind for the Parks Department. So it'll be a really good addition for them to be able to get their work done and be able to maintain those trails and parks and those types of things.
Great. Thank
This
you.
is a cooperative purchase through Sourcewell. That's another thing, I guess.
Okay. Julie, go ahead.
Thanks, Scott. Real quick, what revenue source is this getting paid from? Is this coming out of the parks? Sorry, you know what I'm trying to say, but I'm not finding the words.
It's the conservation easement. Yeah, and I'm missing the words too, but the conservation grant that they're paying it from.
Excellent. Happy to make the recommended motion.
Thanks, Julie. So we have a motion on the floor. There's no public to provide public comment on this item. So if there are no additional questions, let's get a roll call vote on this, please, Ashley.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp.
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Okay, 8 yeses, 0 nos.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right. And again, apologies for having my camera off, but I think it's helping internet connection. Next, we have CMAQ sweeper lease with Montana Department of Transportation, and Aaron Wilson will be presenting. No,
Yeah, and actually,
Brian.
thanks, Mirta. I also have Brian Hensel is here to help present on this. I'll start and give some general background on this item, and then if Brian wants to add anything about the sweepers themselves or other aspects. So just kind of introducing this agreement between the city and MDT. The background here is that this is an agreement for using our federal congestion mitigation and air quality funds that come to the region through the Metropolitan Planning Organization for leasing street sweepers. This is one of the programs we have that has a really huge impact on our air quality in the region, getting the dust and debris off the streets. Really has a big impact on air quality. And we have funded sweepers for the city through the MPO for a number of years, up until about, I'd say 3 years ago. The federal government stopped approving waivers for the Buy America. And there are currently no street sweepers on the market that meet the current Buy America standards for steel. Part of that is just the number of parts and pieces that have steel and the challenge of certifying each and every one of those parts for a full sweeper. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we hit that roadblock. We weren't able to purchase sweepers using CMAQ funding. But in the intervening years, we've identified this process of leasing the sweepers. And so the city won't actually be purchasing these with the federal dollars. MDT will be leasing the equipment with those CMAQ funds, and then transferring them to the city for use for the duration of that lease agreement. So it essentially accomplishes the same purpose of getting us sweepers to do that street sweeping and air quality work. It is using federal funding. So CMAQ, the congestion mitigation and air quality, has been approved by the MPO for this purchase. That covers a little over 86% of the cost, and then the remaining 13.42% is from a required local match. So there are some city funds that go into match that federal grant. So essentially what this agreement is setting up the agreement between the city and the MDT for the terms of that lease agreement, and outlining the process for the city's required local match, how that will be billed, and then the process for MDT recovering its indirect cost rate. So what this will get us, I believe, is 5 sweepers that we will have. This will be an annual, or 4, sorry, 4 sweepers, and we will have those for the duration of the lease agreement, and we'll update this every year. And so essentially we're committing to providing the local match and leasing these for a year, and then we'll come back with this every year. But the idea is that we enter into a 5-year lease agreement that has a termination clause at 12, 24, 36, 48, and 60 months. So every year we have the opportunity to back out if we don't have the funding, or we no longer need it, or something else comes up where we're no longer going to be leasing that equipment. So I think that's, unless there are any questions, that's the general overview of what this agreement is doing, and some of the background of how we got here with the CMAQ funds and sweepers. So I don't know, Brian, if you want to add anything else about your program or the sweeping we do, or how this equipment is going to get used.
Yeah, the one thing I would like to mention that the newest vacuum style sweepers in our fleet are over 7 years old. Sweepers should be replaced at the most every 5 years. And this last round of spring cleanup, I lost 3 sweepers in a week to downtime and some major repairs incurred. Sweepers are a high wear, high maintenance item anyway, even when they're new. And the older they get, the worse they get and the more expensive. So this is a really essential purchase for me. And these 4 sweepers would move to the front line fleet, and then we'll take some of our older ones and make those into the second fleet. And these sweepers are used all year round, even during construction season for other projects. We'll take the second fleet and we'll use them for construction site cleanup. And we get a lot of use out of them, and they are essential equipment. And being able to leverage the federal funding component of this, I think, is a really excellent deal for us.
Great. Thank you, Brian. I see Heather and then Jordan.
Thanks, Marta. Brian, I think you kind of hit it right on the head. You know, it's a maintenance kind of issue that I think every Missoulian does appreciate, whether or not they realize it. Just yesterday, I was biking to work, and what I realized is those edges of the road is the last part that gets cleaned up. And for cyclists, it's really critical to have safe parts of the road to drive on. And so if we don't have these kinds of things, it makes it far more dangerous for cyclists, which unfortunately, if they don't feel safe, myself included, we're going to drive and more frequently. And the more people that we have on the roads driving causes us even greater maintenance costs down the road. So I'm all in favor of this, and I will put the motion I put the motion forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jordan?
Yeah, I was just going to put the motion on the floor. It's weird to me that sweeper companies are not able to comply with a 90-year-old law. I mean, this is a Depression era law. It's really odd to me that they haven't figured out how to make a sweeper with domestic content. But I appreciate the workaround. We need sweepers, and we need to use our air quality funding to get there. So I appreciate all of your diligence in figuring out a solution, and I'm supportive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor, no public to provide comment. Let's get a roll call vote on this, please, Ashley.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
Okay, that's 8 yeses and 0 nos.
Great, so that passes. The 2 will be on our consent agenda. And thank you, Brian. Thanks for all you do and for bringing this forward.
Thank you all.
Okay, next we have a professional services agreement with Kittleson and Associates for the Higgins Avenue corridor plan. And Aaron will be.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll just dive right into this. I think I'm going to share my screen. This is just the initial approval for the mayor to sign the professional services agreement, but I did want to give a little bit of background for the committee just on what we're hoping to do with this project and where we're going with it as we get started. Just by way of background to help in understanding what this agreement, this contract is with Kittleson. So let me see if I can. All right, can everyone see the screen? Assume yes. So this contract is for a professional services agreement with Kittleson and Associates, or they're the lead on this team. And it's for doing a corridor plan or corridor study for Higgins from Brooks to Broadway. This is sort of a key section of the Brooks corridor that was as I'll kind of walk through, it was really an area of focus in the downtown master plan. There's a lot of activity happening and some recent events related to safety and crashes that I think have highlighted the need to really think hard about what this section of the corridor does and how we can accommodate our transportation needs in an area that is likely to see a lot of growth and redevelopment and activity, and really is the entryway into the downtown core. So just by way of, I think everyone is probably familiar and has driven or biked or walked along this section of Broadway. There's sort of two parts to what we're looking at on Higgins. There's the Broadway to the Higgins Bridge in downtown. And then there is the section from the bridge to Brooks, which today has sort of a 4-lane configuration, parking, sidewalks, as sort of shown here from the downtown master plan and from the photo. And there's a number of issues that we have heard related to this section, particularly just the level of bicycle activity, the lack of bike lanes, the need for potentially for transit improvements in the future, the difficulty with the narrowness of the lanes. We hear a lot from adjacent businesses in parts of these sections that mirrors get clipped. Winter maintenance is a challenge through here. There's nowhere to put snow. It just pushes the vehicles closer. It almost becomes 1.5 lanes in each direction in the winter. And so there's some real challenges for really every mode through here, including, pedestrian crossings, making sure there are safe, accessible locations for pedestrians to get along and across Higgins. So that's sort of what's there today. And then there's a lot of activity that's happening, first and foremost being the Higgins Bridge Rehab. So this project is, as we all are again aware, as this construction is ongoing, is going to dramatically improve the facilities on the Higgins Bridge. And so the deck is being widened slightly. It's accommodating wide shared space on either side of the travel lane. So we'll have 12 to 13 feet of combined bike lane and pedestrian space on either side of the Higgins Bridge. Good transitions from the existing facilities on the north and south side to get into those protected facilities. And then some additional work at 3rd and Higgins to create a public plaza and some more public space and improvements and creating some safety improvements and access on that 3rd and Higgins intersection. So a lot of work that's happening. I think when this bridge opens, it's going to be really phenomenal for anyone who has experienced walking across the existing bridge and those narrow sidewalks. It's hard enough to get 2 people to pass, let alone parents with strollers, or if you're in a wheelchair or somebody walking a bike. It's just, you almost have to crawl over the rail to get around somebody on those existing sidewalks. So this is a really substantial improvement for all modes getting across the Higgins Bridge. Then we had the downtown master plan that was adopted a year or 2 ago, really looked hard at this section of Higgins, particularly the hip strip section of Higgins from the bridge to Brooks, and explored some concepts of different options, including looking at doing 3-lane with protected bike lanes, looking at even maybe 2-lane with dedicated or providing room for transit, but really didn't land on any of these options as the preferred, or did not do the sort of in-depth analysis to show how each of these options might work and which one is going to be really the best for this corridor and addressing all the different needs that we have. And so this is, the downtown master plan really kind of forms the starting point where we're going to launch off from that. We've got some concept ideas here, but really need to dig into, are these the right options? Look maybe more creatively at how we can configure some different options, or how we can best accommodate all the different uses on this corridor, of which there are many. So that brings us to this team. We did a selection process. It was a really, in fact, one of the more competitive selection processes I've participated in. I think there's a lot of interest in this corridor. It's very high profile. It has a lot of challenges, and it's going to be difficult to come up with a solution that really works for everyone. but it also means folks are really excited to work on this and see what we can come up with. And so we landed on a team of led by Kittleson and Associates. They're a national transportation firm. They have a lot of experience in the state and around the country, and put together a team that is, I think, really well equipped to address all of the different issues that we're going to encounter on this project, including the multimodal transportation, doing the traffic analysis to make sure that any solutions we have are going to work. And then having the right team. They have Big Sky PR on as a sub-consultant, and DJ&A as a local firm to help. And so we think they can really bring a level of both local and national expertise that I think will get us to a really good design on this project. They also have, we have some Leland and Associates to do some market analysis on this, to really look at how different designs can impact sort of businesses and property owners and neighbors along the corridor, knowing that this is a really important commercial corridor. And then those aspects are really important to making sure we have a successful project. So a really good team, really strong team. And at the end of the day, our goal for this project is to develop a concept plan for a truly multimodal street serving all users and is fitting of Higgins Avenue's role as the postcard street gateway to downtown Missoula. So a lot packed in there. It's going to be a challenging project, but I think there's a lot of good opportunity here to do something innovative and creative and really achieve our goals for downtown and for our transportation system. So our process, that once we get this contract approved and get underway, just kind of a quick overview that want to highlight that public and stakeholder engagement is going to be a really key part of this, that there are a lot of very involved and very interested people, including the business and property owners, the adjacent neighborhoods, people who are commuting to downtown, people who are utilizing that corridor for services or going out for recreational opportunities. And so we want that to be a strong component of this project throughout. And so we have that built into our scope and really are thinking hard about how we engage people and understand their goals and their values and how that relates to our final concept or our alternatives. The next task, or sort of where we'll really get started, is setting that project foundation. So thinking about what's going on out there today, doing basic things like making sure we have the right traffic counts, evaluating how things are operating today, but also trying to understand and establish the goals for the project. So really understand how people are approaching this corridor, what they want to get out of it, not necessarily even thinking about what is the ideal design initially, but just what do we want to get out of it? What purposes does Higgins have to serve? We know MDT is going to be very involved in that initial phase. It is their roadway. Part of it is Highway 12, so there's a federal highway involved in this section, and so that adds a level of complexity that we're going to have to understand what everyone is bringing to the table in terms of their outcomes before we start crafting alternatives or design for the corridor. So once we have that foundation set, we'll move into the developing some alternatives and looking at how those function to try to really illustrate some of the trade-offs associated with different allocation of the limited space that we have on Higgins. And this is where Kittleson's ability to do some really innovative traffic analysis and showing how these things will function is going to come into play, and really tie into that engagement and being able to communicate to people how things will work under different configurations. And then finally, we'll come up with a final concept to make sure that there is enough support for that to make it work, and then move forward. Ideally, we get this project done in 9 months or so, and we are well positioned for either federal funding or to move this project into design, engineering, and construction as quickly as possible. I think thinking about when that bridge comes online, people are really going to be using the facilities maybe more than they have in the past, and it's really going to highlight some of the deficiencies on other parts of the corridor. So trying to get this done in a timely manner, I think, is going to be important for the corridor. So kind of as I walked through, there's some key aspects to this project. One is engaging stakeholders, the business, property owners, the neighborhood, obviously working with MDT that we're designing for their corridor. And so they need to be a really key player in this. And we need to make sure that what we're designing works for their goals as well. And then we want to demonstrate the outcomes related to our goals. And so those might include safety. That is often and typically one of our highest priorities, making sure that this is a safe corridor. Just knowing that it was in the news recently, there was a cyclist who was hospitalized, hit by an SUV, a pretty traumatic crash for both the individual and I think everyone involved. Part of that, the reason that those crashes happen is if you don't have the right facilities and it's not predictable and it's not designed to be safe for all modes, you have instances like that where people don't see someone coming or are not looking, or it just creates safety risks that we want to try to design to eliminate. And then making sure this is a multimodal transportation, really looking at parking. Parking in this area is going to continue to be an issue into the future. And so that's something that we can think about, what does that look like on Higgins and how do changes off Higgins affect parking? And then access and circulation, it's not just getting up and down Higgins, it's getting across and around and in this neighborhood as redevelopment happens. And then thinking about some of the market research and what can different designs do to promote economic growth and activity and support existing and new businesses along this corridor. So a lot there and a lot to do over the next 9 months, but I think we've got a good team to do it and really excited to get started on this project and see what we can develop. So just as a last piece, the funding for this is a partnership between the MPO and the city. So the MPO is providing $100,000, so half of the cost from our federal PL, our transportation planning funds. And then the city is providing the other additional $100,000 out of road district for this project. So it's a combination of both city and MPO funds. So with that, that's all I have. If there are questions about this, hopefully we can get this contract approved and get this project underway shortly and really dive into it. I think the timing is good. We're entering spring and summer, and that really gives us some opportunities to both for engagement and to highlight the various needs for this corridor. So with that, happy to answer any questions or comments.
Thanks, Aaron. I have Julie and then Jordan. Go ahead, Julie.
Thanks. Aaron, thanks for that presentation. I noticed that you said that it's from Broadway to Brooks. Is this going to involve a change to the intersection at Higgins and Broadway? That's kind of a difficult intersection, I would say.
That's a good question. I think that's something we could certainly look at. I know there have been some improvements at Higgins and Broadway in the past in terms of the signal and some of the curb bulbouts and things, but certainly something we could look at. There's a bit of a transition there from the 3-lane and protected bike lanes on the north side of Broadway to the existing Higgins. So I think whatever we do to Higgins there, we'll have to look at that to make sure those transitions work and that it's a safe intersection.
Okay, thank you. I'd be happy to put the recommended motion on the floor.
Thanks, Julie. Jordan, go ahead.
Great, thanks. Aaron, thanks for putting this together. I think this is a really exciting project, and I'm really excited to get a deeper look into it. I recall really fondly when I was in college living in the Babs building before it was fancy, and and commuting on this bridge. I mean, the Higgins Bridge, or the Bear Tracks Bridge, is the epicenter of bike ped activity in the state. I would say and so we're going to and all of that is it's the epicenter of bike ped activity in the state when you cannot cross it with any dignity as a pedestrian, and certainly not as a wheelchair user or someone with a stroller or I mean, it's really inadequate now. And so when we have a facility that meets the needs of our bike ped commuters and our residents walking to farmers markets and music festivals and all the things that downtown has to offer, I think that we're going to see a surge in bike ped activity, and I think that this study is going to really illuminate some good options for moving forward. So I'm excited. I hope that all parties involved will receive the results with enthusiasm and an open mind, and I'm looking forward to participating. So thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Heather.
Thanks, Marta.
Erin, one of the things that we hear from our constituents periodically is that when we spend money on studies, that it just seems like a waste of public dollars. And yet, I think all of us around this table understand that staff has a limited amount of time, and as well as expertise in certain things. And I'm wondering if you can kind of talk to a little bit more of the value and what we get in terms of these kinds of studies.
Yeah, well, one, we get, particularly for this study, we get national expertise from an engineering firm that has done projects exactly like this or very similar to this across the country. And so they can bring, I think, a creativity of ideas and design that, maybe we would think of as staff, and I would like to think we would, but sometimes it's nice to have someone who does that, that is their job, as they do that in corridors just like this all across the country. And so I think that there's some value in that. The other value is really doing a comprehensive look at the trade-off of different decisions. We have a constrained corridor. There's a limited amount of space here. And so we could go out and say, we're going to just make this improvement X and move forward with it. But we don't really know what we're not getting if we chose a different design, or there's a lot of competing interests here, and having a study like this to really dive deep and spend the time that we need to make sure we're evaluating all of the options that are possible, understanding what the trade-offs are, and then making sure that the public has time to participate in this and express their goals and their outcomes, and make sure that they understand the trade-offs and are, if not on board with the project, at least understand why we're moving forward with it. Ideally, we have as much support for our final project as possible, but it just creates that level of understanding, both for staff and hopefully for elected officials and the public, what decision we're making, what the trade-offs are, and why we're making that, and what sort of the outcome is going to be. So I think in this case, it's a perfect example of why we get federal transportation planning funds to do this kind of work, is to ensure that level of coordination and that we have a transportation system that's going to function.
Thanks. I really appreciate the fact that at some point in the whole process that alternatives have been explored. And I think I speak for myself that sometimes when we're at the tail end of a project, I sometimes question, had we actually looked at alternatives? And if so, what were they, and what were those cost impacts, et cetera? So thank you for speaking to that. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you. Jordan, go ahead.
Thanks. I forgot to mention that I think I have the numbers right, but the average daily traffic on the Higgins Avenue Bridge or the Bear Tracks Bridge is 16,000 cars per day approximately. And if I recall correctly, that's the same as it was in 1969. So we've done long range transportation plans every 4 or 5 years for 50 years, and traffic on Higgins has not changed. And that's pretty remarkable given the hundreds of millions of dollars of investment that we've had in our downtown area, given all of the development and our focus inward policy. This is the area where we are actualizing our mode split goals, and so that traffic, the fact that those traffic numbers haven't changed in that period of time, in a half century, is a testament to how this kind of urban design works, and it underscores the need for changes to the rest of the Higgins facility. So I forgot to say that earlier, and Aaron, I don't know if those numbers resonate with you, but those were what I recalled from looking into it in the past.
Yeah, it's certainly pretty close. And we have looked back, we have transportation plans from the 60s that have existing and projected traffic volumes, and Higgins hasn't really changed all that much in terms of the vehicular volume. But I will say, based on some of our count programs, if you look at transit, bike, and walk trips, account for almost half of the trips that are taken on Higgins today. Obviously that fluctuates a lot, during the year. On a Saturday, it's probably, much higher. The number of pedestrians traveling over that bridge and around the front and Higgins intersection is substantially higher. But it's pretty remarkable how diverse the traffic is along Higgins today. And certainly we can help achieve some of those goals with some improvements.
Thanks, Aaron, and thank you, Jordan, for bringing that up. I had looked at that too, and I was just going to say the same thing, that I think the traffic, the numbers might have remained constant, but that to me is a pretty good indication that our mode split is at play here, that we're seeing a lot more cyclists, which, again, I think that to me indicates the need for this plan to happen, so that we can address safety in some intersections, but in the bigger context of what Higgins Avenue should look like for our community. And I think it also helps us be well positioned should we receive any funding, so we can just implement this plan should we have some federal funding. Especially given that at the national level, there's a lot of interest in funding a lot of transportation projects as part of the reboosting our economy. So I think it's timely and it's needed to have this study take place. Heather, go ahead.
Following up on what Jordan commented about, Jordan or Aaron for that matter, do you happen to have what the bike counts were 50 years ago compared to where they are today?
No, I wish we did, but we do not. We started collecting bicycle and pedestrian counts in the same way that we do vehicle traffic counts about 10 years ago. And so we can go back a little ways, but certainly not that far. There may be some anecdotal evidence or, some data collection that happened in the 80s and 90s, but certainly not at the same level that we do for vehicle traffic. Okay. I also want to just put it, while we're talking about some of these topics, that one of the other issues on Higgins is also just the vehicle circulation. And so I think I mentioned that a little bit, but just thinking about how vehicles are not just getting along Higgins, but around and across Higgins. We have, as you know, we have the front and main conversion, two-way conversion project moving forward. This study will be really timely for making sure that we're considering that. Thinking about the left turn prohibitions on Higgins really create a challenge for vehicles to access, parking garages or businesses or things that are just off of Higgins, or to get into the neighborhood, or some of that circulation for vehicular traffic. I think we can make some improvements and make all of that flow a little bit better. So my hope is that this really is a project that can highlight, every mode will hopefully work a little bit better under this project. At least that's the lofty goal.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, no public to provide comment. Let's do a roll call vote, please, Ashley.
Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Contos,
Yes.
Harp,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Merritt,
Yes.
Ramos,
Yes.
Von Lossberg,
Yes.
West.
Yes.
That's 9 yeses and 0 nos.
Great, thank you. And that too will be on our consent agenda. Our next item on the agenda has been postponed and due to some family scheduling conflicts. So with that, we don't have, and that will be brought forward soon. I believe maybe next week or the following available meeting. So with that, we don't have anything else for Public Works. I do want to point out that today is Administrative Professionals Day, and I want to thank everyone in this profession around the world. But here in Missoula, we're so incredibly lucky to have all these professionals helping us keep things going. So thank you so much for all you do. And with that, we would be adjourned. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.